What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we're here to talk about the state of play. I definitely want to hear from you guys in the comments. Sound off. There's Twitter posts and Twitter polls of what you would rate it, and let me tell you, from what I'm seeing, people are giving it very, very low scores. We got quite a bit to talk about. Before we get too far, I just want to say there'll be another video later today on Silent Hill 2. We'll kind of combine everything we've seen and heard about that game, and I do want to cover Astrobot. I think that maybe Until Dawn is the next thing beyond that. But Astrobot looks so freaking cool, and that's going to be a game I cover leading up to its launch. So we'll probably do a video on that tomorrow, okay? Just a little scheduling update for you. Okay, when it comes to the state of play, I got to say, number one, I understand. I understand where people are coming from, and I think to a degree, you have every right, right? We haven't gotten, in my opinion, a good showcase in a few years. Last year's showcase was so focused on the live servicey stuff, and in my opinion, it just was not a good showcase. This year, it's showcase time. This is the time that Xbox is about to have a really big show. Summer Game Fest is going to have a pretty big show. Ubisoft even, right? You're going to get a lot of stuff, and Sony's over here doing this state of play that, did they need to do it? Well, there were a couple standouts, and there were a couple things that I don't really think, made or broke anything. But overall, I would say definitely a weaker state of play. You look back, as we did, you look back to the last two state of plays that they've done have had some heavy hitters. They've either had, if you go back far enough, you might have the God of Wars included in a state of play. But even last year, you had the Spider-Mans of the world, Final Fantasy of the world, Helldivers. You actually had a pretty good amount. This one, what do you got? You got Concord, which, let me say something about Concord, right? I can understand Sony wanting their Overwatch, 5v5 kind of shooter, okay? And, mechanically, there really didn't seem like there was anything wrong with it. I'll be honest, it's just not my type of game. It's not. Just like Marvel Rivals really isn't my type of game. Now, I'll give it a try. I'll play it a day or two or three or four, right? See how it is. If it doesn't, connect with me, it's not a game I'm going to be playing long term, right? Sony, PlayStation, they hope people are going to be playing it long term, though, right? So it is important. But let me say something. The way the show started was kind of a good idea or a good look at just how the rest of the show is going, because you start with a way, way, way too long cutscene. Now, I will give Concord a praise in the sense that, they talked about every week. There'll basically be a cutscene. Every week when you fire up the game, they're going to show you what the crew is doing, outside of a heist or outside of a job. That is pretty cool, and I guess there is focus there a little bit on storytelling. In fact, maybe even the Last of Us multiplayer before it was canceled, that might have been something that maybe they thought of, right? Because it just feels like a narrative kind of device. But here's the thing. You waste so much time on this state of play with a nice-looking CG cutscene, right? It looks good. It visually looks really nice. The characters actually kind of seemed cool. But the thing is, the game it's a shooter. It's a first-person, a 5v5 shooter. It doesn't really matter what these characters are saying. It doesn't really matter this bar story thing where they're throwing hot sauce. It looks good, but it really is just, I would say, an overview of the entire, state of play, where did you have to waste so much time on this? And it's a problem with the industry, right? Having these big CG cutscenes, they mean nothing until you see gameplay. And when you see gameplay, it's such a contrast to the cutscene or to the trailer. Why even have the trailer at that point? Marketing, yeah, get it out there, get people to see it, right? I understand it, but to me, it just kind of signaled, okay, this is what the show is going to be. And then after Concord, which to me was middling and just not a game for me, right? Just flat out. You didn't get a lot. They're really, to me, the standouts of the game in terms of what's coming soon, or at least soon-ish, was really towards the end. Silent Hill 2 gets the date, which is phenomenal, October 8th, thank the Lord, and it looked good. It looked much better than the last time we saw it. Monster Hunter, which I'm not even a Monster Hunter guy. See, opposite of Concord, Monster Hunter is not a type of game that I've normally played. I haven't played, maybe I've touched it for half an hour in my life, okay? Really not into them. But it looked really good. It made me feel and think oh, this is the first one I want to play. And to me, that signals something kind of special, right? When you're not really, if you're not into a fighting game and then a fighting game's hey, you might want to check this out. Maybe it's got to be doing something a little different, right, to get you in. It's something that I think Monster Hunter did that Concord didn't do. Concord just looked like the other ones where, it's another genre that I'm not super into, but it didn't make me or, get me that feeling where it's like, okay, I have to experience it. I think Monster Hunter did. And then ending it, like I said, we'll do individual videos on Silent Hill and also Astro, which we'll talk about briefly right now. But holy dear God, okay, is Astro actually going to be Game of the Year? Probably not. But it looked so good. Very platform heavy. You see the different powers. You see the bosses, some of these end stage bosses. You see the respect for PlayStation that they sprinkled out throughout, in terms of like the history of Journey and God of War and stuff. Oh my God. Like, it looks real. I say that without joking. Like, that might be, I say this without joking, that might be the best PlayStation game of the entire year. I mean, we've gotten Final Fantasy. That game really impacted me. That's my game of the year. Rebirth. Stellar Blade was phenomenal. Astro, is it going to be better than those two games? It might. So I say that non-ironically. Astro was easily the best part of this thing, and I would say actually by miles. Until Dawn, I would say as well. Until Dawn looks really good. I can notice the changes. I mean, I know in the chat when we were doing the live stream, not everybody was, for it. Look, does it need a remake? No. It's 9 years old. It does look visibly changed. The lighting looks different. The character models look different. To me, it's a phenomenal game. I love Until Dawn. I think it's one of the best horror games ever created. I truly mean that. It's a special game to me. Did it need to get remade? No. So you're kind of stuck in a weird spot, right? Where it's like it's one of the better games they showed at the State of Play, but it was never really all that necessary. And they also didn't give a date, right? They gave dates for other games. They didn't give a date for Until Dawn. We know it's the fall. We know it's PS5 and PC, but that's kind of it. New Dynasty Warrior game, great, but 2025. Some other games, some of them maybe looked better than others, and they were also like 2025 or just no date. So just in that way, a very middling show, but like the highs and lows, I would say there was a big gap between the best of them, like Astrobot, and then some of the worst of them. And also, at the same time, the highs weren't all that high. Like, if you showed Ghost of Tsushima 2, that's another level. You show, I know Naughty Dog is such a divisive, kind of company, but you show Naughty Dog a new game, that's something. You show Cory Barlog's new game, or Bend, or Blue Point, and we can keep going, right? That to me, and look, were they ever going to be here? No, they were not ever going to be here. And that's why I said in the beginning, I get it. I get the frustration because I think it's more about Sony not really doing much in the last year and a half versus the State of Play being weaker. I would say a couple things. The State of Play wasn't as good as an average State of Play. It was below average. I just feel that, right? The last two State of Plays I think were better. On top of it, what I said in the beginning of the video, you haven't had a showcase in a year, and the showcase we got was pretty weak. So it's really been 2 years since a strong showcase. So you have that resentment from people, right? Watching this, you have the resentment from people saying, hey, we want Wolverine, we want this, we want that. And they're not all realistic. They were not realistic to be at the State of Play. So, I get the want for them, but I also would get backing PlayStation where it's like, it's not that kind of show. But I get the frustration. It's been years, plural now, without a good PlayStation event. You're about to have Microsoft, I think, knock it out of the park 3 years in a row. They've done it the last 2 years, have had great shows. They're going to do it again. And yes, we might get a showcase, and we'll talk about that probably in a future video, but I can understand. See what I mean? I can understand the frustration. And then on top of it, you can't expect the world out of these State of Plays, but you can want them, I think, to be a little bit more consistent. I think that's what this State of Play was lacking. If you're just analyzing the State of Play, I think it did have big moments. I think some games looked really cool, and I'm excited for some, but it wasn't consistent. There were also some games that were just kind of head-scratching why they were there. And then you also have that exterior pressure of, hey, it's a week before Summer Game Fest. It's a week before Xbox's show. They're going to do big things. This is not big. And you haven't really done a big thing in 2 years. And, I mean, you can count last, because maybe it's just me. I thought the showcase last year was very, very weak. But I feel like that was like a resounding thought from the internet. Maybe I'm wrong. But you know what I mean? That I think is the problem facing PlayStation right now. So you got to turn around. You got to do a showcase. And like I said, we'll probably talk about that in a future video. So you let me know, your score for it, what you think, the highs, the lows. You let me know in the comments, okay? Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.